Welcome to another live stream, everybody. Bitcoin is on a serious mission to finally tap that 100K level. In my opinion, it looks like it's going to happen sooner than later. Will we end up getting it before the weekly candle close, or will we see front-running sell pressure end up pulling the price back a little bit first? I'm going to check on multiple different time frames, looking at market structure, Fibonacci pulls, some of my favorite indicators and strategies, etc. But to be honest, there isn't a whole lot to say for Bitcoin currently. Because really there isn't any resistance since we are just continuing to push through all-time highs almost daily at this point, just pushing a little higher and a little higher towards that level, right? So we'll take a look anyways. We'll take a look at some levels to watch. Also, let me know in the comments, those of you here live with me in the MDX ALGO community, if you have any altcoin requests. I'll do my best to check them all out. If you do request an altcoin, please do me a favor and include what time frame you're looking at, as well as which exchanges charts you're looking at, just because things can vary ever so slightly between exchanges, indicator signals, and all that sort of good stuff. So to start things off here, as I was just mentioning to you guys, I did take a little bit of a short here. I am not bearish. I want to be clear about that. This is just a very specific trade setup that I take as far as looking for a scalp, and this is the 1 minute chart. So basically looking at this Stuber fib setup. So with my auto charting tools indicator here, you can see that we have a lower high and lower low. And today I've been playing shorts that have looked very similar on this downtrend here. Just notice that, here we get a pivotal point here, the pivotal points on the auto charting tools, as well as there is a very minor micro structure break right here, followed by that pullback. So that's a typical Stuber fib setup, for example. And then we just ended up getting a few more that were very similar. There's another one. Yes, they're very small, but you can just see how the market loves respecting those levels. Even from this one here, we ended up getting another one. You get my point, is that's just a very specific strategy that I look for. And even if we are bullish, I'll still take the short side on that. Just like, I've also been taking longs throughout the day, but I am more of a scalper. So it's obviously not going to work out every time. Here would be a perfect example of where the trade never did work. The trend was broken there, where you would have got your laddered entries, bringing your average entry somewhere just above the 886 generally is how I work it. And I would have taken a small loss on that one. But, it's just, like I said, a very specific trade strategy that I look for. So right now that we have this lower high and this lower low signal, pulling that bearish fib, yes, we could absolutely find support right now and blast through this resistance. Basically, if we invalidate this lower high signal, that's where I start to lose faith in this position, and I'm willing to take a small loss. And that's totally fine because, average entry here at this point, even just having my stop loss here, and if we do end up reaching my Stuber target at this point, since I brought my average entry up a little bit, that's 5.4 to 1 as far as risk reward, right? So I'm totally okay taking that loss. And that's the thing, right, is every trade strategy does lose trades. That's totally fine. It's about controlling those losses. That's important, right? So this is one of those times where, yeah, I'm not losing an entire range kind of trying to play a breakout type of a thing. This is looking at a very specific structure break followed by that pullback. That's where we're getting closer to this lower high signal. So I didn't want to short into this with, FOMOing into a short or anything. I would rather wait for that pullback every time. So even though I'm bullish on the market as a whole, I'm willing to take a stab at this kind of a setup just because the risk reward is so good, right? Even if we end up reaching my first target, that's already a 3 to 1. So, that's a decent risk reward setup there. Something that's very interesting and that has got me quite excited recently is I've never actually used the auto Stuber fibs with some of the indicators yet, and I know they have been a thing. And, after I was in one of Max's streams recently, I think it was last weekend or something, and he had told me to check them out, and I saw him pulling them up and stuff, and I've always just pulled my own. I've enjoyed pulling my own fibs, and I still do, just like I have up right now. But something that's interesting is I could not believe, just after the last few days kind of watching how this indicator works. So on the ALGO master, if I go into my settings, the only thing I have turned on is the Stuber fibs. So that's a preset setting here. Basically automatically get the way I set up my fibs. I changed the colors just so it's easier on my eyes, kind of a thing. Just my eyes grab it better. But yeah, that's all I really use on the ALGO master at this point. I also use the trend master quite a bit. But so that's all I use on the ALGO master, so I can just flick them on and off really easily and see if it kind of lines up with what I'm looking at, right? It's a great second opinion to have. So if I bring that up right now, notice it printed the fibs exactly how I have mine. So anybody, you know, interested in Stuber fibs and that sort of thing, I mean, it's absolutely, my mind has been blown the last few days watching this, because there's definitely times where it doesn't look at it the same way I do. Last night I caught along and caught a Stuber fib. It was probably like 15 minutes or so before the indicator printed it. So there's still room for improvement, but it's very cool how often it does actually line up, like in this kind of a case, right? So that's another reason why I wanted to take this little bit of a short, just to test the indicator as well, since it matches up with my setup here. I mean, I like what I see. But very cool. There's a few different times where I don't agree with how it pulls them, but I'm kind of taking notes. Like I said, I've only been looking at these for a few days here, and I think there's just I have a few comments that could just fine tune it a little bit, or a couple ideas that could fine tune it a little bit with how I look at things. So excited to follow that and just kind of pay attention to this. Let me know. I mean, first of all, I guess, how many of you guys actually look at Stuber fibs and have kind of learned how I look at them through these streams and through my channel, etc. And also, if you do use Stuber fibs, do you use the automatic ones at all? Because yeah, like I said, I just haven't really until recently, but very excited to watch this. So kind of cool that we have a live example right now, right? Just seeing how this works on the 1 minute live. Again, we could easily just blast through this resistance, but like I said, that's a 3.3 to 1 risk reward, even for that 0.5 fib target. If we end up hitting the actual 214 Stuber target, I mean, that's where we're looking at 5.5 to 1, 5.6 to 1. We end up getting the full swing. That's where we're looking at a 7.3 to 1. So, you know, that's the kind of thing where when you have those trade setups with that invalidation so close like that, that's the only reason I'm taking this. If I was over leveraged right now and trading with a large position, I'd probably already have my stop loss at break even, just because I think if we break the 886 again, then it's just looking like the bears are having a hard time shutting down the bulls. I might actually do that. You know what? I am going to do that, because as microstructure as this looks, we have this low and this lower low now, and the highest point between the two would be right here, which means a stop loss at break even would actually be a potential change in microstructure here, and just losing confidence in that position. So I am going to do that. That's the thing, right? My trading styles, I am a very reactive trader. I like to update stop losses, take profits quickly, and that sort of thing. But yeah, just generally speaking, if we get a Stuber fib rejection and then we end up testing it over and over, kind of a thing, that's where I start to lose faith in the setup. So I would really like to see us just get rejected here. I don't want to see us get back above this red box. And if we do, I'll just get stopped out. I'll probably actually lose a little bit just because of fees, but you know what? That's okay. Let me just update my stop loss here. and we just see what happens. I am going to make a little resistance ray right here. If we break that level, then I lose confidence in that position. With my profit taking levels, currently I have a quarter at each of these levels, and then leaving 1/4 just in case we do end up nuking for some weird reason. Then I just have a quarter of my position open, kind of a thing. But yeah, I just basically front run these fibs a little bit with my partial profit taking. And also, if we end up breaking some structure to the upside or anything like that, if we do end up setting more lower lows and lower highs, like if we come down, set a new lower low, that would confirm a new lower high. I would basically be looking at taking more profits if we end up breaking that kind of a trend, but it's just a little bit early to do that yet. I'll just do the old break even stop loss for now. Yeah, how's everyone else feeling? Reese, Stu, how are you? Please, can you take a look at grass, please? I absolutely can. That's something I'm familiar with. Not the coin, but that's fine. Grass. And that was MEXC, 1 hour and 15 minute. Me and you both. Hells yeah. Let me just start with the naked chart here. Let's start with the 1 hour. You know, as far as micro-analyzing, I mean, I see reason why we could pull back. I don't know if I'd really want to be buying in at this level in case there is more of a pullback. I do like that we ended up breaking this little bit of a resistance that we had. You know, whether you like diagonal trend lines or not, there was also technically, you know, how I'm looking at market structure on that micro-analyzing scale, we technically had this low with a lower low here. We did technically break it very slightly there. At that point, this would be the highest point between the two, so we obviously broke that level as well. So in that case, if we do see a pullback, I mean, it would totally make sense, in my opinion, that we would pull back a little bit. You know, even if we're going to remain bullish here, pulling back to, let's say, 216 down towards 210, I absolutely see reason for that, just because that's where a bullish Stuber would line up. Obviously, we don't have to drop to that level. It's not like I'm saying we are going there. Just I think that would be a good level as far as looking for entries and that sort of thing. Let's check out what the 15-minute looks like. Obviously, that's the same fib of the entire little pump that we had there. Yeah, I really like how that diagonal trend line broke, actually. A lot of very accurate touch points there. I could just tell from an eyeball there. You know, when something has multiple touch points like that, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's very pinpoint accurate touch points on that trend line. I mean, to see it break out like this, not too surprising at all. It's just that now, obviously, since we started breaking higher up structure as well, you know, now absolutely sweeping those highs, we could end up pulling back to the downside a little bit. Is just something to watch for, right? Doesn't have to happen, but it is something that I'd be watching for. I actually want to see what some of the indicators say as well. I want to go back out to the 1 hour. And actually, sorry, I just want to go back to my Bitcoin position, just because I see that we have filled up quite a bit. Just to catch some of you guys up who weren't with me from the start, I did take a little bit of a short position on this Stuber setup. Just a 1 minute scalp here, right? And honestly, I was saying to everyone who was here with me from the start, I am not bearish, okay? I understand that this short is not from a bearish standpoint. This is from a tight invalidation on a trade setup I like to take. This is purely non-emotional. I just take this. I've taken many of these trade setups on the way down today when we had these corrections. So basically what I'm looking for is fib pulls from the auto charting tool pivot points. And the wild thing is that the auto, I was showing this earlier, the auto charting, or sorry, not the auto charting tools, the, where the heck, ALGO Master. I have the automatic Stuber fibs on as well, and they are confirming this as a setup, right? I can delete my fibs and notice that the indicator has the exact same ones. Blows my mind how well that it catches some of them. Like I said, there's a couple of just a couple of little changes that I would like to make to it, which I gotta talk to the fellas about. But other than that, it calls so many of them so nicely. So yeah, like I said, if we end up playing back to the bottom of this range, I mean, this is a 7.3 to 1 risk reward. Even if we end up just hitting the 0.5 fib, that's already more than a 3 to 1. So that's my only reason why I took that. My stop loss is already at break even, just because, like I was showing, as far as basic, very micro analyzing, playing it very safe on the shorts here. Since we broke that level, technically low, lower low, highest point between the two is this red line here. So if we break that, we're also breaking that very micro structure. We're getting back above the 886. At that point, I lose all confidence in this position. But ideally, I see something like that. And if that happens, that would be a very strong, I guess, just a good feather in the cap for the strategy, because look how bullish this market is right now. To actually be able to catch a decent short with these kinds of setups just speaks volumes for how powerful these strategies can be, right? And like I said, we already got this set up once. And the indicator did print this one as well earlier, from this higher high down to our lower low. Because as we get a lower low, that's a break in structure, right? We lost our higher low, set a lower low, pull that Fibonacci, and we got just front run of the 786. I always front run them anyways. But yeah, just again, it just shows how much the market loves those 786 areas. 786, 886. This one is a perfect double top so far. Actually, I want to make that yellow just to match up with the lower high signal there. If we don't drop down to my first take profit, just front running that 0.5 fib a little bit, if we don't get there in the next few minutes, I'm probably just going to close that quarter early, just to make sure I lock something in so I do cover my fees and that sort of thing. Jack, welcome. Good to see ya. Man, I never catch your streams. You stream at it's usually 3 or 4 in the morning for me, I think. So I always miss them. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. So I'm kind of babysitting that a little bit. I will get back to the other charts, and that's also why, like I said, hopefully I can get to the altcoin requests and that sort of thing. But yeah, let's check out grass here. Trendmaster I want to check out. One thing that I don't like on the hourly here is we have a series of lower buys and lower sells with the Trendmaster. Yes, we have technically reclaimed this sell signal, but it hasn't flipped to a new buy or anything. And even if it is a buy, it could be a lower one. One thing that I really love using the Trendmaster for is confirming a trend just by which direction those signals are trending. So to see this, I mean, yes, that's a little concerning, but I mean, we're just going to have to see, I guess. ALGO Master, that fib pull. Sorry, 1 second. How is this one lined up? So here's an example of where I do disagree with this, actually. So yes, not just because it took a loss here, but it's pulling a bullish Stuber fib, even though we have bearish structure, right? So that's one change that I would like to make in the future. I will mention that to the crew. But so this is an example where I actually would not have had this fib pull like that. So I wouldn't have been looking for that bullish setup. Yes, obviously, I mean, we were probably, well, we were finding support along the 786. So yeah, I mean, I see reason for, especially with how bullish the market is and such. If you're looking at just accumulating anyways, then yeah, it probably wasn't such a bad idea to be accumulating with that sort of a setup. But as far as a leverage trade, I don't know how much I would have trusted that. Volume point of control still above us, right around that lower high signal. Hey, I guess speaking of that, with this lower high signal from the auto charting tools, something to watch for, in my opinion. I know the indicator mostly, it looks for these pivot points, and that's where it's pulling the fibs from. Being that we did drop this lower low here, I would actually be looking at a new bearish fib pull. So even if we do end up climbing with grass, just understand that there is some resistance up ahead to watch out for. I'm not sure if that's one that's so much being traded with leverage and stuff, or if that's more of a spot hold kind of a thing. But yeah, just understand that there is potential resistance up ahead if we do get there, just because of this bearish structure here. And seeing that the point of control on the volume delta indicator also lines up with that, just confirming that there is some serious resistance there, right? Yeah, exactly. The Algo Master hasn't seen the new low as a low yet. So it will probably print, like in this case, it would probably end up printing this right away. It just hasn't yet, right? But yeah, I don't think, see, the difference is with this bullish one, I wouldn't have pulled that period just because it's a lower low to a lower high. I more so want to see the trend. I'm pulling the fibs the direction the trend is going, and that's exactly why I pulled this bearish one. We did just print a higher high technically. You know what? I am gonna actually, I want to see what this candle does yet. I'm gonna stick on the Bitcoin 1 minute chart for now. But yeah, we never had this higher high signal until the last couple of minutes here. But this fib, I do agree with it because it was pulled from a lower high to a lower low, so it has that bearish trend going for it. Just like this one here, even though it had a higher high, it broke that higher low structure, so it was pulling to the lower low, and that's why that was a good short opportunity there. But yeah, basically the same setup here, just we got a little bit higher because we got a full-on double top. It's technically calling it a higher high because it did wick very, very slightly above. So it is what it is. I am going to close that quarter of my position early though here. That way, you know what? Paid myself a little bit. Stop loss at break even. Like I said, we break back above that 886. I lose faith in this position at this point anyways. So I'm happy with that. You know what? For what the market conditions are, I just don't want to get greedy here. I'm just, basically when I enter a position, especially on a 1 minute like this, and especially when it goes against the overall trend, I'm looking for reasons to get out. I'm basically looking for reasons to start taking profits. So you know what? Yes, I think we do end up coming down to this 0.5 fib, but I just want to protect myself because I'm playing with fire by fighting this trend. So we'll see what happens. I see Smallio in here. How do you feel about me fighting the trend here, good sir? Yeah, Max is still going. That's wild. He's
Yeah,
been
sometimes
streaming
too. I
since
think
like
you're just
4 in the morning my time.
you're just making too much money, Stu. So you just want to give it back to the market.
I
You know?
just took a little more out. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see us get some sort of a pullback. And you know what? We start printing these. I really wanna watch how this Algo Master does print some more Stuber fibs. Like I said, I'm impressed. As long as it's going with the trend, I would like to see some bullish ones start printing and start playing those. Give it the little test run as well. Um, but yeah, I'm down to play some bullish Stubers as well, especially now that we got this higher high here. Let's just say we do end up pulling back, and honestly at this point I don't know, we might just reverse here since we got that higher high printed. But I would be willing at looking at a fib something like this if we do end up pulling back. So again, not saying we are going down here, but if we do, I think that's a valid Stuber setup there because we do have a higher high printed here, right? So I'd be interested at looking at longs at that level. If I'm still in the short, if I don't get stopped at break even on the remaining 3/4, I will be taking profits heavily down here on it. But like I said, I already have them set off these fibs. This fib pull might change soon, but I already have my. Oh, see, actually, look at that. The indicator did recognize this new higher high, and it has printed the exact same Fibonacci pull that I did here. Love to see it. That's very cool. I'm actually going to snug up my stop loss even a little tighter. Because, like Zoo said, we don't want to give the money back to the market, right? Yeah, but very cool that the Algo Master here seems to quite often print out the exact same fibs that I do. Like I said, I changed the colors, just personal preference. Like to have my entries and my take profits in green. So, yeah, it just catches my eye a little better. But yeah, very cool. What is grass still looking about the same? Oh, actually, one I wanted to look at, and Smallio will appreciate this, will be Trio. I did notice was making some nice moves today. Love to see this. You know what? Same thing, right? Pulling up the Stuber fibs here. Just notice that that's exactly how I would end up pulling this from our swing low here to the very top of the wick. And notice that it lines up absolutely perfectly there. And notice where we did end up finding support right along the 786, even though this is just a big scam wick kind of a thing, just a random. Obviously there was people taking profits and stuff, and it's such low trade volume that it moves the price very quickly. But still, just look how well support was respected right at that 786 fib. On top of that, and this is the daily chart, you guys, as far as the Algo Master here on the daily, we have that higher buy signal. I know I was talking about this quite a while ago, but just still holding that trend absolutely beautifully. Even when we had that pullback over those few days, we ended up just respecting the shit out of that buy signal trend there. So, yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think this thing's going to $4 relatively soon here, and hopefully much further beyond. Especially, I mean, obviously with the market conditions the way they are, I think altcoins with a little bit of hype, and obviously the trend is to the upside because a bunch of structure did end up getting broken. Very tightly coiled structure. got those higher trending buy signals on the daily. I mean, that's just such a beautiful trend, and what the market cap's like a $5 or $6 million market cap, something like that. So there's so much room to the upside if there is some hype building around this. To my understanding, there's some things happening fundamentally in the next little bit. Could be wrong. I don't look into fundamentals all that much, but that chart looks just primed for me. I love to see it. Bitcoin, what's it doing here? Still, ooh, getting real close. Yeah, I'd really like to see this pull back just so I could get into a nice long position. Anyone else in any interesting positions? Leverage, spot, yeah, anybody else crazy enough to try and short these markets? Is everybody long? Is everyone sitting on their hands, not sure what to do? How is everybody feeling on this market? I'm getting more excited for altcoins than I am for Bitcoin, honestly. Such a beautiful buy trend from the Algo Master. This is on the daily chart, you guys. Just look at the way it printed these higher buy signals here. Each one a beautiful entry there. Trendmaster, obviously a nice strong buy trend to the upside here, and it just looks like it's curling to the upside. As far as basic structure goes, I mean, really, as long as Bitcoin stays above 85K, it's looking beautiful to me. If all of a sudden we end up dropping that level and flipping that into resistance, yeah, you know, at that point we have a couple things to be concerned about. But honestly, I don't know. I think that if anything, it would be a nice, healthy correction. Like, honestly, even if we got something like this, I would be so insanely bullish if we ended up getting some sort of a macro Stuber fib pullback, something like that. I feel so differently about this chart now than I did down at these levels, because we actually have that bullish structure break now, confirming this as a potential, you know, bullish continuation, right? Before, as far as even this, that was a beautiful 786 test as well, right? But honestly, I wasn't as excited about that as I would be about something like this, just because, like I said, here there wasn't actually a break of the lower high structure that I was watching around 70K. So yeah, I played some longs and that sort of thing because it was obviously bouncing from a 786. That's totally fine. But as far as this goes, this is an actual Stuber setup, so I would be very excited to see something like that. I don't really expect that. I want to be very clear about that. It's just something to watch for if we start losing some serious daily structure levels. But there's no reason to think that's going to happen yet. It's just something to be ready for if it does for some reason, right? So far, holding that lower high resistance there. Like I said, if we break 98, and this is the Blofin chart as well, so obviously exchanges can vary. My stop loss on Blofin is around 98, just above 98, 560. Just giving a little wiggle room above my red line here. Since we did print this higher high here as well, just something else I'm going to do to adjust my position here. Like I said, I did already close quarter my position early. I am still going to close another quarter down at the 0.5 fib and a third quarter down by the 214, which is just the opposing 786 that pulled the opposite way. And then leaving my last quarter run from there if we get some sort of a dump from there. I just wanted to, at first I was thinking I was going to just change this order to up here and then keep my orders down here and down at double bottom. But I just want to make my profit taking a little bit more aggressive at this point. Since we did print the higher high there, I'm looking more so for a bullish Stuber fib to play at this time. It's just that, you know what, since I'm already in a risk-free position, may as well ride it out and see what happens. Hopefully I can lock in some gains on the way down and then hopefully catch that reversal, right? But we're going to have to see what happens here. Jack is long on alts. Pack is long. Nice, nice. Smallio, yeah, 96 and then up. That would be awesome. We'd actually be dropping a little bit lower than here, but that's totally fine. That would just be, if I'm not mistaken, that would be very similar to something like so. Yeah, 96.3, somewhere in there. I would love to see that sort of a pullback. And honestly, that's quite likely because technically, even with this bullish Stuber fib here, this isn't actually a higher high out of this range, right? We technically did have a higher high back here. So, I mean, it's still quite likely that we do end up dropping down there. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it absolutely makes sense. Just notice where we're struggling right now, hey, is that even though this Stuber fib might be invalidated because of this auto charting tool pivot point here, just notice that we are struggling right at that 786, 886 fib pull. Yeah, we got above it very briefly, basically a double top, end up dropping it, and even now, even if we blast right through it, I mean, you can just tell it's an obvious level of interest. There's just obvious reactions right in this level. And you see it so often. And the more you see it, the smaller versions of it you see. I mean, I see this all the time in the charts where sometimes it's not even necessarily worth playing because the range is so small that it just doesn't even make sense. But yeah, you just start to notice how often the price loves to bounce at just smaller and smaller 786, 886 kind of areas. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this plays out for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. I would love it if we ended up hitting the 0.5 in the next little bit here, but we'll see. How is everybody doing in general while we watch this? I wish I had some tunes or something to play here, but I just kind of want to babysit this trade. I just think that, you know, it's a perfect example since right at the start of the stream we ended up getting into a position here. I just really want to babysit this more than anything. But honestly, like I was talking about with Bitcoin, unless we end up dropping 85, I mean, structure's just to the upside. That's all there is to it. Blue sky breakout, continuations to the upside. Everything is trending up. There's really nothing else to say. Yeah, BTC boring. Pump the alts. That's how I feel. I want Bitcoin to just kind of calm its titties. That would be sweet. Just kind of bounces between 190 or 90 to 100k. If it just bounced in a nice healthy range there for a week or two, I think altcoins would go nuts. Especially if we could see, actually that's something I want to touch on. What's Bitcoin dominance up to? Bitcoin dominance just technically lost some structure there. This is going to be that very micro analyzing I always talk about, but technically we had this high, we set this high, and technically got a little bit higher, so we did end up losing this little bit of structure. Yes, it's very micro analyzing, like I said, but technically did lose that structure. Or if you wanted to say, hey, this is the block that ended up pushing us up through resistance, sure. Either way, we ended up dropping both of those blocks, basically, right? So that's interesting to see Bitcoin dominance starting to drop. You know, maybe money does flow into altcoins for the next little bit before that next push. Absolutely possible. Look at that perfect rejection. Got a crazy rising wedge potentially. I know not everybody's into chart patterns or diagonal trend lines, but I do love to see when they are respected, like pinpoint accurate like that. You know, if we could see a third touch point on this support followed by flipping that support into resistance, man, I don't know. In my opinion, I think altcoins would go nuts if we saw something like that. I would love to see that. It actually depends how it happens, right? If you know, if the market's in a healthy place, and you know, there's no, it's not like there's panic selling, it's not like the price is crashing aggressively or anything like that, more so consolidating in a bigger, healthier range type of thing, and then the dominance drops like that, I think we'd be in a very good place. Right back up to that 786 again. Will it hold out again? Each time we test that box, I mean, less likely it's gonna hold as resistance, in my opinion. If we're just kind of tapping away at resistance, eventually it's gonna break, and that's why I have my stop loss just above that 886. And honestly, especially that this position has been open now for basically an hour, since I started it right at the start of this stream, basically down here. Um, yeah, since I've been in this position for almost an hour already, you know, if the trade isn't going to continue for me at this point when I'm trading the 1 minute like this, I'm totally okay to just, you know, take whatever little profits that I have at this point from that first quarter I took. But we'll see. It is what it is. That Stuber fib is still intact. I just don't want to see us get back above it for this position to keep carrying on. What's the DXY up to? Let's check out the Dixie. Interesting. The Dixie is also pumping. So this is one of those times, you guys, where you know, everybody thinks that there's that inverse correlation. Doesn't necessarily need to be a thing. You know, Bitcoin and the dollar can move up together. Yes, quite often they run against each other, but not always. You know, the Dixie could run all the way up here. I was pointing this out, what, over a month ago? That technically, with this green trend line here, this little green line here, that was a bullish break as far as looking for a Stuber fib pullback. We had this one play out relatively quickly, and we ended up having another one play out. So the thing is, that 214 is always kind of my range target that I'm looking for. That's the target of the Stuber fib, but that's the main range target. The thing is, if we end up breaking out of this range, I mean, I'd be basically looking for the opposite Stuber fib, and that's pulled from this high down, and that's where I have this red box here. So, I mean, we're going to have to see what happens. But, and like I said, maybe they both fly, right? Maybe Bitcoin hits 200K and maybe the Dixie gets all the way up here. Who knows? But just something to keep your eye on. If the price of Bitcoin starts tanking and the Dixie starts flying up towards this level, just understand it has room to go quite a ways yet. I was actually talking about that down here. When the Dixie was trading down here, I was saying that, you know, we technically have a decent amount of room up to the 214 and then potentially much further. But again, doesn't always matter. It's just something that a lot of people love to pay attention to. So if you're into that kind of thing, those are some levels that I've been watching the last couple months. Just struggling right below that 786, but respecting the hell out of that level. Tia, that's one I haven't looked at in quite a while. Ordy? I assume Mexi. Is this the right chart? It looks like a nice falling wedge forming there. Nice and tight. Binance. Yeah, what do we have here? Let's check out the daily. What do we have here? Never even quite got back to a Stuber fib pull. Love to see that we did break some resistance here. Just looking for those. I mean, even the fact that we're back down into those levels, yeah, maybe we pull back a little bit, but the fact that we got a close above that level, I feel like that's teasing us, and just seeing that basically the same as I look at horizontal structure breaks, right? When I see that close above, yeah, I'm open to the idea that we do pull back. Obviously, it's showing a little bit of weakness if that happens, but still looking at it as, hey, there was a break to the upside, so a little pullback would be totally normal. Even if we pulled back, you know, to the full Stuber fib all the way back at, you know, kind of around 27 down to 24 US dollars on this thing, currently at 37, it would be totally healthy in my opinion. But honestly, at this point, with how some of these run, and especially even where we're finding support right now, obviously we have this little cluster here which pushed us through that resistance. Here's our block. So let's even get rid of our fibs here. Just looking at what pushed us through this resistance here. And really, we could even bring it up a little bit higher. But this is basically where we ended up finding that support that blasted us through there. So to see us now respecting this level as support again, I mean, I love to see that as well. And that's on a daily chart, right? So yeah, there could be some nice upside move there. I'm not sure what the market cap is on something like this. Tia, I did want to look at as well. God, that trio just looks so good. Tia. Oh, look at that. The indicator called that one. Even though it is against the trend, you know, it did get a beautiful bounce right from that 786, 886 fib pocket. You know, I would actually consider that one, if I went by my own analysis rather than that. Let's just say, you know, here would be my low, lower low. Here's my lower high. So being that level did actually break, right? Again, we got the candle body close above. Totally normal to see that pullback and pulling from bottom to top of that range. Look where we end up finding support, right? In the 786, 886. Yeah, that's juicy. And that's a daily chart. And this thing did massive moves when it first launched. Was that the start of it? I think it was. Either way, beautiful level of support there. Obviously broke. I'm just looking at a quick eyeball here. Beautiful trending to the downside there. Perfect pinpoint accurate touch points. End up breaking it here, and then flipping that resistance into support and just basically forming a bit of a rounding bottom here, or at least some sort of a flat bottom. I mean, all this thing really needs to do at this point oh, that's a juicy trend line in my opinion. That's interesting. And I mean, I don't really see why it wouldn't break that soon, but that, my friends, is a nice trend line. Break that and send. Not saying we get all the way up there, but absolutely possible to think that, you know, if we're going to test some macro fibs, it makes sense to see, you know, back up towards that $17 somewhere in there. Gonna have to see. I mean, as the bull market continues, there's honestly, the way I see it, I'm not really looking at targets all that much at this point. I'm more so looking at, well, when structure changes, then it's time to take caution, you know. That's what I was saying with like the daily, for example. We actually break structure. Okay, it's time to start considering possibilities. Even here, you know, if all of a sudden we lose this support here, I'd be open to the idea of a short-term pullback. May come back down, test this old support level. I think it would make sense. But until that happens, there's no reason to even entertain that idea because there's been no structure break even on the 4-hour. You know, I haven't lost all my faith in this short quite yet. It printed, the auto charting tools did print a higher low here, but notice we did break that level already. We technically got slightly below it. So again, that's just basically confirming that the highest point between the two is still my lower high. And my stop loss just above that 886 still makes perfect sense on that remaining 3/4 of that position. Still happy with that. Well, I don't care if the rest gets stopped out just up here, basically break even. That would basically end up paying my fees or whatever, but I already closed 1/4 of the position. Notice we just printed a new lower high signal here as well, lining up perfectly with where I said that it would be basically, right? So yeah, just another thing confirming if we break that level, break that 886, yeah, I want out of my short position. But until that happens, I'm willing to hold on to that 3/4. Ordinals, Ordi is about a 792 million market cap. Okay. Not quite a billion yet. And TIA follows TAO, Tau. Yeah, those charts do look very similar, honestly. That little flat. And, yeah, bit tensor. Yeah, that does look very similar to something that I was pointing out. Even what's there so far, I know not everybody can see this, but even what is there on that bit tensor chart, I mean, that pretty much tops out right at a 786 there. I guess I could bring it up here. Oh boy. I think this is what I was looking at on your chart. Yeah, 786. AVAX, I'll take a quick look at AVAX. What exchange? What time frame? Oh, just to see if it'll hit 64. Let's take a look at Binance. Take a look at the daily. 64. I don't see why not, honestly. Just looking at some of this structure that's broke here. Notice here we had our low, lower low. Therefore, we had our lower high. We obviously broke that. We're now trying to flip that into support. Even if we lost it and came back down a little bit, maybe see some sort of, and this is just if the market takes a nosedive for some reason. There is still technically support down here. But to see us potentially flipping this resistance, this lower high resistance on the daily into support like this, I mean, that's in nice shape, in my opinion. So, yeah, if we do end up getting a nice little rally here, I'd be looking at something like that. The Stuber Fibs, the 786 would start around 54 US dollars. The 886 would be around 59. And then, yeah, if we get that double top, even if we get back up to those highs, yeah, back at 64. So at this point, I don't see why it would be impossible. Also zooming out, just like, oh man, yeah, that looks beautiful to me. The fact that we ended up breaking out of this tight range, coming back, that's probably, again, just a perfect Stuber Fib there. Yeah, look at that. Came to the 786, 886. So even if that range target is hit, that's around $52. That's that 214 fib. Like I said, basically the opposite 786, very close to that level. But I don't see why we wouldn't pump towards that level. Technically, we're already hitting the 0.5 fib, so that is my first target. But if the whole range is going to be retested, I see no reason why we wouldn't end up testing like $52, $53 again. And depending what happens with the market conditions as a whole, but if altcoins are doing good, I mean, I see no reason why it wouldn't go significantly higher. It's hard to say which altcoins. Like, I don't follow anything like this fundamentally, so I don't know if they have strong fundamentals, strong tokenomics. I have no idea. I'm just a chart guy. But yeah, I see reason why it could go there or higher, as long as, you know, there's some hype around it. Bought at 32. Well, honestly, not a terrible buy if you ask me, just because, you know, that is where we broke this downtrend here. Even if we drop down a little bit, I don't see why it couldn't end up getting a 2x. But obviously, if structure changes, if all of a sudden there's panic in the market, World War III starts breaking out or something like that, I mean, who knows, right? But as it looks right now, that just looks like a nice Stuber Fib setup to me. Found perfect support right in there. Love to see it. Bitcoin still making its move. So far, so good on the short ledgies. Like I said, playing with fire, fighting that train, but that just goes to show the power of these trade setups and why I love those Fibonacci's so much. And a big thing for me with Fibonacci's is that there's not much room for interpretation. It's very systematic. And honestly, I think that's so important. Totally depends on the person though, right? I mean, we could all have the same trend lines, the same indicators, the same absolutely everything, and we would trade the market completely different. So do what works for you, obviously. Before you put any real money behind any trade setups, you know, do some back testing, find out what your probabilities are, make sure you're looking at things the same. You know, just having a set of rules basically, and then going back with the handy dandy replay feature on TradingView, and then going and finding out kind of what your probabilities are. If you think you notice a trade setup that always plays out, go back a couple years and just see how often it plays out. DBR? What's DBR? I'm not sure which chart would have the most. Or are they all, did it launch? Is that normal? Oh, that looks very similar to your chart as well. Yeah, fairly new. Yeah, what do we got here? I don't think it quite hit a 786. Very close. Very close. Yeah, I know absolutely nothing about this. There isn't. Oh, wow. Wow. Just a nice big candle there. I bet you could have caught this on a shorter time frame, though. Had a fairly... Just trying to find if there was any trend lines with 3 touch points. Boom, there it is. End up breaking that. Absolute moonshot. So that's the thing, guys. You know, I know a lot of people don't like trading diagonal trend lines. I myself, I prefer horizontal as well. I prefer horizontal and then using Fibonacci's from there. Very systematic. But as far as diagonal trend lines, I still like to look for trend lines. It's not even so much specific chart patterns. I just like looking at trend lines as long as they, you know, have exact touch points. I don't like looking at trend lines, and this is just me, right? Everyone has their own way of looking at trend lines. I personally like to see exact wick touches. I don't go for the average. I don't even do candle bodies when it comes to diagonal. I just go exact wick touches because that's the very outside of the range. And then I just feel like if that breaks, there's not much room for interpretation. Obviously, you could break back into it and look for shorting the retest, for example, whatever. But in a case like this, you know, we had very exact touch points, just like I was talking about earlier. So to see that trend line break there, yeah, not too surprising to see that absolutely blast off like that. That can be a very powerful pattern when you're looking at low cap new coins. How is this looking? Yeah, it could pull back a little bit further. And of course, if we end up losing this range, that's the thing with new coins, and, you know, especially when things go absolutely, you know, straight in one direction like that. If we end up losing this range, you know, it could be just as fast. You know, if we move that fast to the upside, I mean, if we lose that support, it could be just as fast and just as violent to the downside. Just something to pay attention to there, because, yeah, there just wasn't a lot of structure built on the way up after that trend line broke. Did a great job building support, just building structure this whole way to the downside here. But then it just absolutely blew through, and now there's just, you know, there's potential for a very large range to form. Just something to be a little cautious of. Stu just blazing it. Pulling Stuber's got to be the chillest guy. You know, I just about bought some of that chill guy. I think it would have been about 2 days ago. I think the market cap was already like 150 million or something, and I have no idea what it's at right now, but I've come across it a few times now. Did you load up on that or what? Just love the meme. Yeah, yeah, totally. And I do like to be a chill guy. Pretty chill. I should probably buy a big fat bag of that. Just kidding. I won't. Anytime I'm playing with meme coins, honestly, I treat it like lottery money. I never buy too big of a bag, which is unfortunate sometimes. I mean, I caught an ADX on one. I don't know. That was probably about a month ago. I literally bought something just to make my friend laugh, and the next day it was up 80x, and I was like, "What the hell is going on in my wallet?" So that's always fun in the meme coins, but yeah, I don't know. For the most part, I wouldn't say I've had a ton of luck on them. I guess Peng was another one I did quite well on. Chill guy. Oh wow, almost 400 million market cap now. That is going places, or has gone places rather. Um, Reject everything. I didn't read that. Joe guy, yeah, 387 million. Wow. Anybody catch this? Oh boy. Would have been nice. Tits, you say? I remember we looked at that one day. Is it just me, or were we looking at this down around these levels here? Trying to remember when we were looking, or maybe it was over here. I think it was over here. Because I remember we had a Stuber fib. We definitely hit the 0.5 fib, but didn't go much lower than that, and then absolutely exploded again. Yeah, that thing is on a moon mission, and still just setting higher highs, higher lows, right? I mean, at this point, as long as it can stay... I hate looking at different tools. Rectangle. Aha, great success. Basically, as long as we can hold that support, I mean, I see no reason to even consider that this trend is broken. So far, so good. $250 million market cap at this point. Yeah, that thing's had great momentum. All-time high with BTC today. Yeah. Well, I said Bitcoin needs to calm its titties before the rest of the market can do its thing, so... Got in around 1 cent on tits. Nice. Up a nice 25x. Congrats. That's huge. Nothing wrong with the 25x. Yeah. Good. Bitcoin. Oh man, we got so close to the 0.5. Come on, we can push a little further. Ooh, tried to print a higher buy signal there, but instantly got a second sell signal. That's interesting. That's on the trend master. ALGO master still has that bullish Stuber fib there. What's the 5 minute looking like? Yeah, even even if the 1 minute gets down to this level, I'm not so sure I'm gonna take a long yet. I think I would if we end up setting, that, and that's if, right? I don't know if we're actually gonna reach this target or not. But if we get down to these levels and then get some sort of a structure break like that, um, like I was talking about, we set a low, a lower low, we have a lower high, we break that and then get a Stuber fib, and we kind of get a Stuber fib inside a bigger Stuber fib. In that case, I will be looking at taking some long setups, but I might just ride this short for now just because, I don't know, the 5 minute wasn't overly grabbing me. I still think there's potential that, let me just clean things up a little bit. If we do end up coming down to these levels, I still think it's possible that we end up coming down to this bigger fib. It's because if I do something like so, we obviously broke that higher high, set a higher high, so the lowest point between the two is down here. So that's where I'm pulling that fib from. So I still see the possibility that we do dump closer to 96. I will be aggressively seeking longs in that area if we end up getting down there. But we'll see. So far, the short's just still playing out okay. Holy, we've been going for an hour and a half here already. I'd like to wrap up this stream, but I kind of want to hit one of my targets or something here. I know I closed a quarter earlier, but I'd like to at least hit that 0.5 fib before I wrap up here. Hopefully in the next couple minutes we'll hit that. You were also in tits below 1 cent, but only a bit, been TPing and adding more on the go. I do that with my trades quite often. Like when I'm actively scalping throughout the day, if I can be adding and removing from a position, kind of a running position, I don't mind doing that. Kind of sounds like that's what you were doing with that. Actually, Elva was another one I wanted to look at. I still have about a third of my Elva. Oh, I did end up dropping this. I did end up taking a little more profits, around 69 cents. Classic. I just bumped it down because it looked like we weren't going to quite get there on the shorter time frames. But so I ended up hitting 4 of my TPs on this guy. I did end up mentioning this one on my Twitter, and I know I was talking about it in the micro caps and stuff like that. This was another one much like Trio where it really caught my eye on some of the indicators. Was it the Trend Master? I think it was the ALGO Master, but here I just had my settings a little bit different. did not have my fibs. I think it was something like so. Yes, and on the daily I had pointed out that, hey, we got one of those scenarios where on the daily time frame we're setting higher buy signals. Absolutely massive. And then to see us break out above this resistance here, just notice, let me just remove that. Notice how well, even a perfect horizontal line, just notice how well this level of resistance was respected. And then after we end up breaking it, we obviously pull back a little bit, get back above it, and then just straight moonshot. I think it was the day after I posted about it, we ended up getting like 110% candle or something like that. Yeah, 114%, somewhere in there. So this thing is absolutely blown up. What was the move, actually? There's also from the volume delta. Notice where we ended up finding support, right? From that volume delta point of control, basically we ended up pumping 900%. So, I mean, a very aggressive moonshot for the 1 week there. And it's not unrealistic at all to expect some sort of a pullback. To see this, totally normal. In my opinion, nothing to worry about yet. Like I said, we've hit a bunch of my take profits. I only have about a third of my position open still on this, and that's obviously spot. That's not with leverage or anything. But yeah, I mean, we could absolutely pull back a little further, right? It would be totally healthy to get a super fib pullback. We got very close to the 786, but we could go a little bit lower. We'll see what happens. I'm glad that I paid myself either way. You know, when you start seeing, 5 to 10x, there's no harm in hitting that take profit button from time to time. I always like to leave a little bit, but yeah, all risk is off the table, nothing but profits. And yeah, hopefully it does 100x from here. I have no idea what this thing's capable of. I know it has a tiny market cap and it broke some very serious structure, and the indicators like it. So that's basically what led me to buy that. Know nothing about it. Back up to that 786. Why not? Yeah, notice since we don't have a lower low signal here, we don't have a new Fibonacci pull from the ALGO master. I could pull one manually like this. Technically, we're getting the 786s basically overlap, the smaller one and the bigger one. But yeah, nothing's really changed here as far as this structure goes. I'm still looking at this red horizontal ray here just below the 886. So again, we break above that 886 and I'm just closing the rest of my position. So, and that might happen in the next couple minutes finally. This position's got to do something here. Still just struggling with that 786 a little bit. Again, here's a perfect example, right? Like I was saying earlier, even if we do end up blasting through that super fib pocket at this point, just look how well it was respected this whole time. Basically, yeah, we got above it very briefly, but just look how many times we kind of tested up into that box, but just getting rejected. So yeah, eventually we keep tapping away at it. Yeah, eventually we break through it, but there's just obviously such a level of interest here. Those 786s, they're no joke. The market likes to react off those levels. Oh, I'm getting hungry, legends. Is Max still streaming? Does anyone know if he's still streaming? Is he still alive? He's done? God, poor guy must be exhausted. How long did he go? Like 13 hours? 14 hours then if he just wrapped up. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was like 4 a.m. my time when he went live, and it's now damn near 7 p.m. Madness. Maxness. I myself am thinking about wrapping up here soon. I really want to go have a snack. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I gotta pee. But I really want to see the old 0.5 here. Promises were made. Just kidding. I didn't promise anything. Yeah, if I caught the 100K live and Max didn't, that would be fucking hilarious. I'd feel guilty. Right on. Have a good one, Ghost. Thanks for joining. Always appreciate having you guys here. Thank you, everybody who is here with me live right now. Hopefully you do take some value out of these, take some sort of a lesson out of this. Hopefully the way I look at structure, how I pull my fibs, how I look at the indicators. Hopefully it's helping something click. I know sometimes all it takes is somebody to say the right thing at the right time, and even if it's not my specific strategies, but just something that clicks, and something that clicks with your own strategies just by something I say. I know it's happened to me before listening to other people, so I aim to be that person. Yeah, absolutely. This group rocks. Absolutely. We're all learning from each other. It's great having so many different opinions, seeing so many people, because not everybody looks at things the same. And that's what's so incredible about having a handful of different people doing live streams in here and that sort of thing, multiple a day. It's so nice seeing different approaches and different strategies. Like I myself, I keep things very simple. I don't go too in depth with any crazy technical, any crazy fundamental indicators or anything like that. I just, I keep mine very simple. And as I like to say, simple strategies for a simple guy. So yeah, it's just nice that everybody has their own strategies and that sort of thing. So yeah, I always appreciate having you guys here. Helps me keep a level head talking through my own ideas. Here we go, aiming at the 786 once again. I don't know if I'm going to hit that 0.5 here. But if you guys got to go, if it's really late for you, anything like that, I appreciate you guys being here with me until now. I am going to stay live just for a couple more minutes. I want to see if the rest of this position gets stopped out, or if I at least do hit that 0.5 fib. That's really the two outcomes I'm waiting for right now. Basically just hanging out, seeing if that'll happen. A new lower low signal printed here. It was a little late on this, and that's the thing, right? Sometimes these auto charting tools pivots are a little late sometimes, but obviously we actually got that Stuber fib played out from the lower high down to where we bottomed down here. Technically we tested the 786 there, and we got all the way down to the 214, so that one actually played out. That's just a smaller one than I'm looking at. And that's why I said, guys, like, when you start to see these, and you start to see these fib pulls, and you start to see these ranges, whether they're small and you don't want to play them period or not, it's just crazy how often you start to actually see it show up in the charts. Don't you know, pump it up, You've got to pump it up, don't you know? Pump it up. Well, if it's gonna do that, I hope it does it in the next couple minutes because I'm getting hungry. I'm just curious. No, the indicator hasn't printed that one yet. See, I'm interested. I wonder why it hasn't printed it yet because there is technically a new lower high and lower low here. So I'm kind of surprised it's not printing a mini one. Interesting. I know most of you guys are familiar faces, but there are actually a couple of new people here. Just throwing it out there in case some of you guys, let's say you missed part of the session, you know, talking about why I took this short setup, even though it's playing with fire because we're in such a bullish environment, kind of going over this trading strategy, or you miss future streams that you want to catch or anything like that. I do have my own YouTube channel here, StuTube Trading, all one word. Yeah, give me a follow there. Much appreciated. I also have Twitter, StuTube Trading, all one word. Sometimes I'm posting analysis and stuff like that there as well. Yeah, do me a favor. Give me a subscribe. Check out my videos. But yeah, just going to, like I said, going to babysit this just for a few more minutes here. It's fun to see so many new people, actually. Must be a lot of Black Friday deal purchases or something like that. Seeing a lot of new faces around. So if this is your first time being in one of my streams, thank you for joining and welcome to my streams. Like I said, I keep things pretty simple. I like to look at basic market structure, Fibonacci's, some of my favorite strategies with how I use the indicators and that sort of thing. And yeah, I really like looking at these degenerate time frames, looking at the 1 minute, the 5 minute, and stuff like that. I do it every Thursday, same time. And yeah, I know that not everybody likes to trade the 1 minute. I totally understand that, but also understand that all these, you know, trade strategies and just the way I look at market structure and that sort of thing, it all works the same on larger time frames, right? I mean, structure on the 1 minute is very similar to structure on the 5 minute, very similar to structure on the 15 minute, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the daily, etc., etc. Market structure is market structure. It doesn't really matter what time frame you're on. So, you know, the things that I'm saying on the 1 minute, they also apply to larger time frames as well. I totally understand why a lot of people don't like trading the 1 minute. For example, you got to be very quick to react. It can be stressful. I find it stressful getting into swing trades and, you know, just not knowing for such a long time if it's going to play out or not. I like knowing within a few minutes kind of a thing. Like you saw at the start of this stream how quick I had my stop loss updated to break even, just because of how the Fibonacci's and how the market structure was forming. I like to know very quickly how my position is going to go. Obviously, I don't know the end situation with a position, but just knowing whether or not I can expect a win or a loss, basically. And like I said, at this point, I know that I'm in a winning trade because I already took profits on a quarter of it earlier. And stop loss is just slightly better than break even now, just above that red box. So, but I also just like looking at the 1 minute and the 5 minute and stuff because obviously I can just show way more examples. And you know, this is a perfect example today. I got to actually take a short right at the start of my trade, or right at the start of my stream, basically, and show a live example of how I'm looking at these Fibonacci's and that sort of thing, right? Holy, fibs are getting wild here. Tried to switch a little bit there, but come on, hit 98.1. You know what? I'm closing here. I'm just going to manually close that quarter of a position that's at the 0.5 there, just because we're so close right now. If all of a sudden we just get a double bottom off this lower low signal here, just because we are trying to find support here, I'm just going to take that quarter early right now, just to make sure I hit it. I still think we'll drop that little bit just to tag it, but I just want to secure it right now. So I still got half my position running. We'll be taking a third quarter down around 97.7K if we get there. And then the last quarter we'll keep running. See there, we would have ended up hitting my take profit anyways. Boom, there it is. There's that 0.5 fib. There is a successful Stuber fib setup for you, live. And it was cool that the indicator had also printed it. Obviously, it's printed new ones since that. But it was cool that it had agreed with that trade setup and also caught that live one. Very cool. So, yeah, guys. I mean, looks like we're working our way down towards that 786. But like I said, I'm hungry. We've been here for almost 2 hours now. We hit my first actual target there, so great success. Yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys found this stream useful. If you're watching later on my YouTube channel, do me a favor, hit those like and subscribe buttons. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace. And thank you guys all so much for being here with me. Really appreciate it. See you soon. Peace out.